Hi, Demetria. I wanted to leave you some feedback on Essay 2. So, as a whole, I think that there's some good information in this essay. You give quite a bit of context for the reader, right? Almost, let's see here, um, about, two or three pages of context here. And so that's helpful. The reader needs that context, particularly when you are discussing political cartoons. I do think that there are some issues with organization here, meaning that I would not recognize this paper as a visual analysis paper based on the first two pages. I would interpret this to be a conversation strictly about BML, right? That more specifically in defense of BML. And while that's perfectly acceptable to have in this paper, particularly if your political cartoon deals with how unfair BML protesters have been presented um, on social media or other media outlets, you do want the paper to appear to be like the genre. And so your analysis, your visual analysis doesn't really start until the second half of your paper. And at that point, it almost feels like there's this big like jump in logic. So I would recommend re-outlining this paper, right? Thinking about where the best places for context are, and bringing in your visual analysis sooner and thinking about where you can continue to include the context. So I don't think you necessarily need more information here. I think it's just restructuring, right? Thinking about where things are. So really, your thesis statement, what I assume is your thesis statement, is a thesis statement about BML, but it doesn't have anything to do with a visual analysis, and that's why your reader won't interpret it as a visual analysis paper. So as I said before, you want that genre to align, or you want your thesis statement to align with your with your genre. So I do think some rewriting here is needed. I do think that I like the ideas presented in this opening paragraph, but I do think some revision is needed. Crazy is a little bit too informal for this paper, and you're being repetitive with these ideas right here. So remain informal tone and edit for your repetition. Um, and you've got some more repetition in here. You're being a little bit too broad here. And in fact, when I got to this point, I was like, oh, okay, so we're specifically talking about BML. So I think perhaps some of your context that you have in here might be better suited in your introductory paragraph. But so there's two things going on. More context is needed. I think you have the context here. It's just in the wrong spot. You need to edit for repetition and formal tone, and get a clear thesis statement in there as well. Also be certain to edit for formal transitions. This, for example, is far too informal for an academic paper. Also, you're referring to sources and you have direct quotations in here, which means that you do indeed need a works cited page. We have not talked about works cited pages in class yet because I haven't required you to use any sources. We'll do that in paper 4, or excuse me, essay 4. But if you do include sources, you need to create a works cited page. So if you need help with that, please reach out and let me know. You also need to create an appendix for your image. So this should be on its own page labeled appendix. So I do think some revision is needed, but I think with some revision, this will be a pretty strong essay. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.